Look what I have. Everyone is so jealous of me that I have this book. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, are you reading it? I want to read that book. Everyone that I told that I finally got it was so excited. Like, oh my gosh, can I borrow it afterwards? I'm like, whatever. I'm underlining this. I'm using this. I got this book. This is the first Mel Robbins book I've ever actually bought. I have seen her work. I watched some of her things. I never watched the original TED Talk. I am into self-help. I'm really into self-help. I've loved Tony Robbins. I've read every major self-help book, and I've never really looked into Mel Robbins. I've always kind of seen her around, but I never like sat down and was like, who is this person? Until I saw this. So I was on TikTok and her podcast kept popping up. And there was a podcast where she was talking about this let them theory. And it was just like a minute, just like a really short minute. And I think this phrase really resonates with a lot of people. She's very good at narrowing things down to a slogan that is empowering, an empowering slogan. So when she was talking about this on her podcast, she was talking about, she's like, the Just Do It Nike ad. She said to the guy, what's the most powerful part of the Just Do It slogan? And he said, the do part. And she said, no, it's the just part, because everybody doesn't want to do it. You just do it. It was that TikTok, and then the TikTok where she said, just let them, where I was like, this woman is a powerhouse. Like, those are two perspectives that have now just kind of revolutionized the way that I've thought, and it has made it simple. And I think these days, the most empowering thing is a slogan you can keep repeating to yourself to get you through those things and just change the way that you're thinking. So those two TikToks were like, okay, I'm gonna look into this person, and I'm gonna actually dive into this book, because that TikTok alone, this slogan alone has been repeating in my head, and it has been so empowering, so wildly empowering. Just like pretty much every single embarrassing thought I have, where I'm worried about what someone thinks, let them. And so even when I told my friend that I got this book and she's like, I want to get it, she's dealing with a divorce and is dealing with people's thoughts of what they're thinking about her divorce. And she's just like, I have to let them do that, let them go. And so I was very excited to open this book and see what Mel had to say. And I just loved, with most books, I actually skip the introduction because it's always just like nonsense. I don't need an abbreviation of the book I'm about to read. I don't need an introduction that has nothing to do with the book I'm about to read. But what I am loving about Mel Robbins right now on this new journey of getting to know her is that this introduction, do not skip it. She goes through her life story and like how she got to where she is. And I was so encouraged by her raw authenticity in describing her debt, which is humiliating. It's very humiliating to talk about debt. And especially someone that was like making a lot of money, to have that much debt, you're like, girl, what were you doing? If you made that much money, how? And to just even like to talk about her failed restaurant that her husband, I mean, like, these things are humiliating to discuss. No one likes talking about failure, especially when it's your husband and all of these things. I was just floored by her honesty, and even just her honesty. But like, when you look at a speaker, you see this person that's like got it all together, that can give you wisdom. And I know we don't think that they're perfect, but there's just an element of like where you think that person has your life together. And she was just talking about her journey. I'm going to save it because you should read the introduction. I just think that was just that rarely do introductions ever just grip me in. They're usually boring and I usually skip them. But this was just like, oh, this is who this person is. This is what this person struggled. And it kind of launched me into this book. So I was very impressed by that. What I didn't realize about this book is that there's two parts to it. There's the let them theory, which she goes into, and all of the examples that she gives, like from deep examples to shallow examples. I felt like the shallow examples like bugged me a little bit because I didn't relate to them. And I felt like this concept is so deep and empowering that even using it for stupid things is annoying. And I would almost use a different book. If you get taken out of the present moment by waiting in line at Starbucks, I feel like you need a different book than this, because that was my one critique, is that I'm like, I feel like sometimes the examples that she used, but that's for everybody. Like everybody needs to feel like they can understand this book. So I understand why she used some shallow examples with the deep examples, because you need to show the range of motion. But I just felt like, I'm like, yeah, but if you're sitting, I would use this principle to deal with this mundane stuff in life. I would read a different book, like Practicing Presence, The Power of Now, or whatever. But I didn't realize this book had two parts. The let them theory, whereas you let people think what they're going to think. You let people make bad choices. It's okay. Like, you're going to apply this theory to whatever it is in your life that you're struggling with. For myself, even filming this and putting it on social media, or just, I recently moved to Texas and I met all of these people, and everyone is so friendly, but people are in my life in a way that I've never, ever experienced in my life, where there is a community. I don't need to use quotations, a community. Oh, I did it again. Okay, a community of people that are in my life and know things about me and are spending a lot of time with me, and in a shallow sort of way that is, and in a deep sort of way. I mean, like they're talking with me, and but it's just weird because I've never had this many people in my life that are on a shallow level. It's usually most of my friends are like deep and people. And so it's weird being in a place where there's so many people, so many eyes on me. And then, using social media as a way to like see me and view my life. And it has made me feel very overwhelmed and very perceived. Like, why are these people like looking at me, talking about me, thinking about me? Like, having, like, I know that they're talking, not necessarily even in a bad way, but like talking about me, like, like, it's just weird. It's really, really weird. And it's kind of, I feel very, I've said it already, but perceived like these people are. And this book has helped me just be like, it's okay, chill out, like let them. And it goes into so many, this phrase has helped me so much in my thought process, not just with that, but with so many other things. But there's a second part of the book that I felt like was so, I was like, oh my gosh, it's let them. And I don't want to give it away, but the other part is let me. So that's the empowering part. Like, there's one part where you let go, but then there's another part where you take accountability. Let me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? And so that would be probably even to those shallower moments where she was describing the let me part, where it's like, what can you do about this? What can you do, and what can you let go? And she is definitely a simple writer, and I like that she breaks things down simply and easily to digest, easy to read, easy to understand. And which is interesting because I think her podcast is really way more science-based. Like, I feel like she's really like bringing in facts. And I think this is more, she is bringing facts in this, but this is more like she's talking to you and using her life in a way like her podcast, I think, is less vulnerable. And this was shockingly vulnerable. I was very surprised at the things that she confessed to. Pretty much everything. I was like, oh, whoa, you said that. Like, but I think that's good. I mean, that's what makes a good book, is that she was able to bring up these scenarios where I'm like, yeah, me too. I feel that exact same way. I'm astonished that you put that in a book. I don't think I've ever read a book written by a female with such intimate vulnerability about herself. And I think that's kind of what sets her apart from other speakers, is once her podcast is very science-based, and I think less personal, but like her book seems to be very personal, very applicable. And I really, really, as a woman, I really resonate with someone that's able to be like, this is my life, this is how I messed it up, and this is where I'm at now. And it just encourages you to be like, okay, I think as women, we really, really appreciate that vulnerability. And just, again, like all the instances she was bringing up, like some of them I was like, you're, nah, but most of them were just like, oh my gosh, wow. I can't believe she just was this honest with her audience and wrote it in a book. So highly recommend. I usually like feel like books that are this obvious, like with the title, I'm usually like, I could write that book myself. Most of the time I think that. I'm like, I could write that book myself because that's like very easy. I won't tell you which books, but I'm like, okay, Never Eat Alone. Never Eat Alone is a great title. And I started reading it. I'm like, I could have written this. This is basically exactly what the title says, but this is not this. I think this is goes into really different aspects of it, and it brings in a different element of the let me, which is the accountability, which I loved. So I definitely highly recommend. First book review on YouTube. I'll put a link in my Amazon storefront if you want to get it. It takes a few days, but I think it's worth it.